everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome to my top 5 books of January 2021. This is the first of my monthly top books wrap-ups for the month of December and I'm really excited to get into these with you guys. Happy 4th of December. Let's get into it. So in this video I'm going to give you a breakdown of how much I read each month. I'm going to tell you my top 5 books and I'll also let you know if I had any rereads for the month. And I think that's just going to be a nice format to give you a bit of an idea of what I'm reading. The reason I'm including the rereads is because usually the rereads are like 4.5, 5-star reads that I want to revisit. And I'm not counting them in my top 5, particularly if they're rereads, but I'm letting you know that I'm still reading them because they're some of my favorites. Also, I thought it would be really interesting to see in future years if I'm still reading these books. So in January, I read 42 books. That equated to a total of 11,512 pages. The books that I'm going to talk about are in no particular order. They were all 4.5 or above stars equivalent, and they're books that really stood out in my mind. So the first one is A Rogue by Any Other Name, The First Rule of Scoundrels by Sarah MacLean. This was the very first Sarah MacLean book that I actually read. I have been following her for years on her podcast Fated Mates, but I hadn't actually read any of her books. Historical romance books and I, we have our moments. And this one I really enjoyed. This one is a bit of a Hades and Persephone retelling. It was really fun, and it is about the Marquess of Bourne, who is cast out from society. And now he runs a gaming hell. And he's fairly ruthless and he wants to get his inheritance back, and he is quite happy to do whatever it takes to do that, including marrying Lady Penelope Marbury. I thoroughly enjoyed this. Sarah MacLean has a really great writing style. It's very engaging and funny, and it was just a delight to read. So thank you to Kirsty, because I think she was the one who recommended this to me. I also have Air by Katie Robert. This is the second book in her Bloodline Vampire series, which is a series that I have really been enjoying. I have actually finished the series now, and while I don't think the third book holds up to the first 2 books in the series, it's still delightful overall. And this is about Mina, who in the first book in the series, which is called Sacrifice, she is basically a sacrifice to a bloodline vampire. And when she gets there, things get real very quickly, and she ends up in a relationship with both Malachi, who is that particular vampire, and 2 of his friends. So this is a reverse harem vampire story. It is super steamy, very short, very easy to read, and a lot of fun. I also have For Real by Alexis Hall. I love Alexis Hall's writing, and this one was no exception. I think that this one I got as a recommendation from the Fated Mates podcast, and it did not disappoint. This is an relationship between Lawrence, who is a submissive, and he's older and he's really jaded with the BDSM scene at the moment. And then he comes across Toby, who is a young dominant, and he's just learning what he is. And basically he learns through time he spends with Lawrence, and the whole thing is just incredible. I will pretty much pick up anything Alexis Hall writes, and I've got a huge backlog of their books to go through. I also loved Blood Air by Alona Andrews. I actually read this twice in January. It came out, it is the spin-off from the Kate Daniels series. This one follows Julie, who is Kate Daniels' ward from the first series. And at the very end of that series, she had left Atlanta and had gone out on her own. And in this book, she returns. So it was really nice to revisit this world. And I'm so excited to continue reading about sort of the younger characters from that original series. It's going to be great. And I couldn't not put The House on the Cerulean Sea by TJ Klune in here. Now I know that there has been some controversy around this book this year, and that's totally justified. And I encourage everyone to do their own reading. And I understand the sensitivity around this issue. However, when I read this book, it had to have been the perfect time for me. And the emotional connection that I made to this was just something that I can't not acknowledge, being a book that just constantly stands out in my mind as a book that I'm thinking about all the time. This is about Linus Baker, who is a bit of a bureaucrat who works for an organization that oversees magical orphanages, and he is sent out to this small orphanage in the middle of nowhere, the House on the Cerulean Sea, and there he meets a strange assortment of magical children and their caretaker. And it is how he begins to realize what kind of system he is involved in, where he disagrees with that, and also this beautiful element of found family. So I loved it, but it is something that I think people should read up on what happened earlier in the year before picking it up. So those are my top 5 books. The books that I reread this month included The Dry by Jane Harper, Starry Eyes by Jen Bennett, Mind to Possess, and Hostage to Pleasure by Nalini Singh, which I was reading as part of the Psy Changeling read-along, and I then also reread all of the Kate Daniels books before I reread Blood Air. So those are my top books of January. In the comments, I would love to know, what was your favorite book that you read in January, if you even know. I don't know, I'm weird, I keep stats like that. But if you know, let me know in the comments. If you want to let me know that you're here but you don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave wave emojis down in the comments. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.